Hi everyone, Jane here again with another video. Thank you so much for watching today. Today I thought I would use some of my favourite art supplies from my last video, my art supplies that sparked joy in 2025, to create a bauble themed page. We recently went to one of our local, it's a sort of garden centre, sort of home centre with a lovely cafe and they have a whole Christmas sort of display area downstairs in there, and I saw some beautiful baubles on the trees. I showed you a photo I took sneakily while I was in the shop because they set up all the trees with the baubles on to entice you to buy them, and they looked so beautiful. I took some photos. So I was sitting down in an evening and just having a little play around drawing some of them and drawing out some different sort of compositions that I thought would look nice in my sketchbook. And I'm working in the Canson art book today, the one that has the Saunders Waterford paper in it, and I am using a 14B graphite matte pencil from Faber Castell. Now I am going to be using my Safari Lamy to draw in the lines over the top, but I am not confident enough with drawing to just go straight in with my pens yet. That is my aim. My aim is to be able to get a pen and just sketch away, but I do like to have things drawn out in pencil first of all, so that's why I'm going in with a pencil. And I've also just purchased the rechargeable Derwent electric eraser as well, because it has this really fine sort of tips to it, which you can really get some like detailed erasing, and apparently it's good for using with pastels and coloured pencils to take areas out, which I thought would be a really good tool to have. So that's what I have on the desk as well, the table. So I had like I said, I've been trying out some ideas on just with a normal pen and some copy of paper, and I just had an idea of what I wanted to do. So I've gone in with my sort of my main bauble, which was the one that was from the photographs, sort of, well, my interpretation of it, and to put that, I thought slap bang in the middle. I don't think I went slap bang in the middle, but I was trying to go sort of in the middle, but if it's slightly off I wasn't worried either. And then added a couple of very simple baubles to the sides. Now I'm just going over with my Lamy Safari fountain pen, and the ink in this is Rohrer and Klinger, I think it's called. It's a sketch ink, and it's their black version, and it is a waterproof ink. Now, I know that a lot of people also use the carbon black, I think it's platinum, for waterproof ink, and I think that's probably a much blacker ink than the one I use, but I don't really necessarily want a really black ink. Now I decided I was going to use my Daniel Smith watercolours for this, and you will see at the beginning I did show you the tempera paint sticks. Full disclosure, I don't actually use the tempera paint sticks in the end. I actually changed my mind whilst I was doing the project, but because I just wanted to mostly use the paints and then a bit of pencil as well. So I'm going in with Lavender to start with. Now Lavender is a colour I bought in the Daniel Smiths because it's not really a colour I usually use, to be honest, and I thought it would be a nice one just to have in my collection because it's a little bit different. And like I said in my last video, I wanted my Daniel Smith collection to be not just me getting the usual sort of split primaries and the colours that you always use. I wanted it to be something a little bit different with some of their more maybe speciality colours. So I got the lavender, and I've actually used it there because it was the lightest colour. I could have masked off these baubles, but I decided to wing it. So I'm just being careful, basically. And I know I'm going to be painting them in as well. And as long as I make sure that the background is dry before I start colouring in, painting in the baubles, I should be okay. And so now I'm going in with the Ultramarine Turquoise, that very first colour that Sharon sent me in a little half pan so that I could try it out, because she knows that these are some of my favourite colours, the turquoises. I love peacock feathers from Tim Holtz in all the different distress products. So it is one of my colours that I really do love. So I'm adding a bit of that in. And then I'm adding in some Quinacridone purple. Again, a colour I bought because it's not a colour I would normally necessarily choose, or that you'd get in just a standard palette. And it is another beautiful colour. And I thought because I had the blue and I had the lavender, it would just go well. I had an idea that I was going to go with the same colours in the photo for the actual baubles. So I was just going with something in the background that would be complementary to it. Complementary as in not opposite, but would complement the colours, but would also be different. So I'm not trying to do anything too amazing in the background. I'm just wanting to get like a nice sort of not blended, but a nice, just a nice background with some lovely colours. And at this point I had decided that I did want to just darken up the area that was right around the baubles, just to sort of give that sort of shadowed type effect. So that is what I am doing here. Once I was happy with the background, I left it to completely dry so that I could then work on the actual bauble part of this project. And the main colours that were in the photograph are sort of like pinks and greys. So I've started off by just adding a light wash of Moonglow to the baubles. I say a light wash, the middle one went a bit darker, but the nice thing about watercolour is that if you do put a little bit too much down, you can either lift it with a piece of paper towel or a cloth or something like that, or I often just take a bit more of the colour away with my brush and move it to another area so that I can then sort of like not waste the paint as well. So it's 2 for 1. So I allowed that then to dry, and then I wanted to add in the pink elements. Now I had Quinacridone Rose, which is a beautiful colour, but it was a little too bright for what I wanted. I wanted more of a dusky pink. So I added in some of the titanium buff, or buff titanium. Some different companies put it the other different ways around, into that pink to just give it a more muted sort of tone. And I start off like with a light coat of that. And now what I'm trying to do is get those rounded shapes by how I'm painting them in. In a little while you'll see that I add a slightly darker tone, and then I'm just going to build my colour. So I leave my layers to dry in between each section so that I don't mess up what was underneath, and then I just gradually build and build until I'm happy with how it looks. So once all of the watercolour had dried, I wanted to move on to adding some finer details to my my project, and I'm going in with the Derwent drawing pencils. I went with 4 different colours. I went with 2 shades of pink and 2 shades of grey. The pinks I do believe are Dusky Rose and another one. I will list all the products I used and the colours in the description box below. And the greys were Cool Grey and Granite. And I'm just sort of adding a little bit more, what would you say, bit more depth into the colouring. I'm not an expert on colouring, especially with pencils. I sort of just tend to go where I think. But the drawing pencils from Derwent are good blending pencils. They blend together. So what I was doing with the pinks was putting in a little bit of the dark and then going back over with the lighter pink just to blend it out a bit. So I was just doing what I thought looked okay. So I'm just trying to add in a bit more of the sort of the roundness of the baubles, a bit more to give you an idea of the shape of them, and also a bit more shadow and shading and that sort of goodness. Once I was happy with how the pencil looked, I wanted to add in some pen work. So I'm going in with my Copic Acreas in gold and silver. And I've also grabbed a metallic Sakura Jelly Roll pen as well in gold. And I do also add in a bit of white Copic Acrea as well, just to add some extra highlights. And to be honest, the thing that I think really brought the whole piece together was this gold pen, this gold Jelly Roll pen. I really loved how that looked, and it really brought it to life and made it much more of a completed piece. Once I was happy with all of the work I'd done on the baubles, I really did want to add something on this to make it more of a mixed media piece. Although it was already mixed media because we already had the paint and the pen and the fountain pen and the pencil and everything else. But I do always love to add a little bit of stenciling or stamping or something on. So I'm using this little Be Crafty Dinkable with some gold metallic paint just to add some finishing touches. And I just, for me, it's just lifts it and makes it a little bit more interesting. But of course, you know, I could have stopped at the end of the painting process and the drawing process. Your own projects, you can stop wherever you feel like. And I always love to add some sort of sentiment. So I found this one from Lemon Creation. that I thought went well with the project. So thank you very much for watching today. If you have enjoyed, do please give a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, then I'd love you to subscribe. And you can also now hype videos to help small creators, and you will see at the end of the video a list of my lovely super supporters. These are my YouTube members. Thank you very much to them, an extra shout out to them. And if you're interested in my membership, I will leave some information in the description box below that you can click on to find out more. So until the next time, bye.